It is with regard to these problems of resource allocation, the choice of production method, distribution, and economic growth, which have their roots in scarcity of resources, that economists have been asking questions from time to time and providing answers for them. Besides, economists have also been raising question about the efficiency of resources allocation for the production of goods and their distribution among them people. These questions of economic efficiency is aimed at knowing whether or not a particular allocation of resources to the production of various goods and distribution of income among them ensures maximum social welfare. Knowledge of the scope and purpose of the economic theory can be obtained from the type of relevant questions that have been asked by the economist from time to time and their mode of answering them. The scope of economic theory and basic economic problems. There have been a lot of controversy among economists. Also, the true scope of economic theory or its subject matter. The subject matter of economics or economic theory have been variously defined. According to Adam Smith, a visual hands, economics inquires into the nature and causes of wealth of nations. According to Ricardo, economics studies how the produce of the earth is distributed. That is, economist deals with the distribution of income and wealth. According to Marcel, economics is a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life and examines that part of individual and in social action which is connected with material requisite of well-being. As a Pigu said, economics studies that part of social welfare which can be brought directly or indirectly into relationship with the measuring rod of money. Gustav Castle has defined economics as dealing with the markets, prices, and market exchange. Professor Lionel Robbins defines economics as a study of the allocation of resources among competing ends or uses. Ludwig von Mises has defined economics as the logic of rational action. Its definition of economics given above is incomplete and inadequate since they do not indicate the true scope and subject matter of economics. Moreover, some of them are too wide and some of them too narrow. Professor Bolding applied remarks about some of the above definitions to define it. Economics as a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life is surely too broad to define it as the study of material wealth is narrow. Okay, to define it as the study of human valuation and choice is again probably too wide, and to define it as the study of that part of human activity subject to the measuring rod of money is again too narrow. A great confusion has been created about the true nature and scope of economics because of these numerous and conflicting definitions of economics. J.N. Keynes was right when he said political economy is said to have strangled itself with definitions. In view of the present author, the subject matter of the science of economics has grown so wide and vast that it is extremely difficult to put in a nutshell of a definition. It is because of this fact that modern economists have now stopped discussing the proper way of defining economics. Okay. In fact, they think any attempt to define economics as a useful and futile exercise. They are of the view that what economics is about can be better explained by pointing out the various issues and questions with which economists are concerned. It is because of the difficulties in putting the whole subject matter of the economics in a definition of a few words, and Jacob Weiner has given a pragmatic definition of economics. According to him, economics is what economists do. Economics is what economists do. Economics क्या है जो economists करते हैं. In other words, what economics is, which can be better understood from what economists do and what they have been doing. This is to say what of questions economists ask and I have been asking, and what answers have been they have been doing. This is to say what type of questions economists ask and have been asking, and what answers they have provided for them. Thus, what Economics is about, or in other words, what is the scope and subject matter of economics can be better known by spelling out the questions economists have been asking and the basic question problems they have been concerned with. The following are the main questions which have been asked for by the economists. They from time to time, it is worth remembering that all these questions, fundamental questions about rise because of the basic problem of scarcity confronting an economy, and what goods are produced in what quantities by the productive resources with which the economy produce processes possesses, how the different goods produce, that is what production methods are employed for the production of the various resources, goods and services. This is the productive, this is the total output of goods and services of a productive resources distributed among its people. Are the use of productive resources economically efficient? Whether all people available productive resources of a society are being fully utilized, or save some of them lying unemployed and unutilized? Is the economy's problem in capacity increasing, declining, or remaining static over time? The six questions listed above have been the concern of economic theory from time to time. As said above, all of them arise from the fundamental problem of scarcity. All economies, whether they are capitalist, socialist, or mixed, must take decisions about them. Economic theory studies how these decisions are arrived at in various societies. It is worth mentioning that economic theory studies how these decisions are arrived at in various societies. It is worth mentioning that economic theory has been mainly evolved and developed in the framework of capitalist institution, where free market mechanism plays a dominant role in solving the above basic problems. Therefore, the mainstream economic theory assumes free market system and explains how the above six problems are solved by it and with what degree of efficiency we shall explain below above six problem or questions in the detail and see how they are related to the problem of scarcity. Now, the first question is the problem of allocation of resources. The first and foremost basic problem confronting an economy is what to produce so as to satisfy the wants of the people. The problem of what goods are to be produced and in what quantities arises directly from the scarcity of resources. If the resources were unlimited, the problem of what goods are to be produced would have not been arisen, because in that case we should have been able to produce all goods we want and also in the desired quantities, but because resources are in the fact scarce relative to human wants and an economy must choose among the various goods and services wants for those people which society decides not to produce will remain unsatisfied. Thus the question of selecting goods for production implies which wants should be satisfied and which ones should be left unsatisfied. If the society decides to produce a particular goods in larger quantity, it will then have to withdraw some resources from the production of other goods and devote them to the production of the good which is to be produced. More the greater the quantity of a good which is desired to be produced, the greater the amount of resources allocated to that good. The question of what goods are produced and in what quantities is thus a question about the allocation of resources among the alternative uses. Thus, with the given scarce resources, if the society decides to produce the one good more, the production of some other goods would have to be cut down. For instance, at time of war, when the society decides to produce more goods like guns, jet planes, and other armaments, some resources have to be withdrawn from the production of civilian goods and devoted to the production of war goods. Devoted to the production of war goods. Because of the society scarcity of resources, we cannot have more guns and more butter. Some butter has to be sacrificed for sake of more guns. What determines the allocation of resources, and what are the results of attempts made to the change of the allocation as to occupied the minds of economists from the very beginning of the our economic science. Whatever the type of economy, be it capitalist, socialist, or mixed, a decision has to be made regarding allocation or of resources. In a capitalist economy, decisions about the allocation of resources are, in other words, about what goods are to be produced and in what quantities are made through the free market price mechanism. A capitalist or free market economy uses impersonal forces of demand and supply to decide what goods are to be produced and in what quantities, and thereby determines the allocation of resources. The producers in a free market economy, motivated as they by profit consideration, take decisions regarding what are to be produced and in which quantities, by taking into account the relative prices of various goods. Therefore, the relative prices of goods, which are determined by free play out of forces on of free play of forces of demand and supply in a free market economy, ultimately determine the production of goods and the allocation of resources. The branch of economic theory which explains how the relative prices of goods are determined is called microeconomic theory, a price theory, and has been the concern of economists from the earliest day of economics.